Tell you what, it's Thursday, and you know what that means? It's the day before Friday. It also means that it's 6 o'clock. This is Men's Radio Station, and this is the ABC of CBD. Well, I don't know what the weather's like where you are today. I had everything from like kind of sunshine to like crazy winds gusting like mad. Other people are sending me pictures. It's snowing, and I'm going like, what the heck? So you think we were in Antarctica or in a huge country? We're in this little tiny country. So there we are. I hope you've had a good week so far. This is one of my favorite hours of the week. I got to tell you this: award nominated, barrier breaking, but it's all because of one man, ladies and gentlemen. He is the hunk of hemp. He is the Maharaja of marijuana. He is the Count of Cannabinoids. He is, of course, wait till you get a load of his hair. Wait. It's only Ollie Mammon.
Ew, hair down Thursdays.
Hair down. I've forgotten because we've never met, despite doing 70 shows and worked together for over a year, right? And your hair's always back, so I have no idea. I don't see your ponytail because you always face on to me, and suddenly it's like, good God, you make Dave Grohl look like, well, I can't do any hair gags. I'll get slapped, obviously, but there we go. Wow. How long is it? Show everybody. Go on.
Oh, it's very long.
Because no one's ever seen.
Somewhere
no one's ever seen.
Long.
Blimey, O'Reilly.
All the way out.
Well,
so, yeah, hair down Thursdays. It's really lovely. I watched it. So I was saying to Russ before we started the show, so I've got my new lab assistant, which kind of means that this whole day-to-day grinding in the lab, in terms of like mass manufacturing, et cetera, I've kind of just offset it a little bit, which kind of means that my hair doesn't get greasy, which is kind of wonderful. So I'm kind of embracing it before I know I'm going to have to get back in there.
Let's dash up to Edinburgh. Good evening. This is going to be great. Snow and sunshine, but that's Edinburgh. That's Edinburgh like every 10 minutes.
That's it. I heard that people go to Fringe in the middle of summertime and they wear ski gear. That's literally what
I've got to tell you. I did the Fringe 2 years ago. And Veronica will know it. That Frankenstein, you will know what that is, Veronica. Just over by Blackfriars Bobby, the lovely statue and the little bridge then. So I was at Frankenstein's for a few weeks and loving every moment. And 1 minute I'm in my like barber and dressed up like Nanook of the North. The next minute I'm like, oh my God, but you never knew what you're going to get.
This is basically what we've had in London the last 5 days. We had 18 degrees last week.
I was like,
I was in my garden in shorts and a t-shirt, walking around, smoking a joint, thinking it's summertime. That's and I literally woke up today, went outside for my cigarette, and I was like, oh my God, it's cold. Like, it
was absolutely perishable.
Then it started snowing on me, and I was like, right, Ollie, there's something wrong right now. And I thought, what
you're smoking, Ollie.
Maybe,
I never got any snow.
So it started snowing, and I got back from work just now, and it started snowing again. I'm like, what is going on?
It's bonkers, isn't it? Like,
April's Fools, isn't it?
It is April Fools. Anyway, enough from me. Thanks for turning up, everybody. Of course.
Hell yeah.
And time for your introduzione.
Shall we play the sponsor first?
I would if I could find it. You just lie for a minute. I'll find the sponsor thing.
Not a problem. So let's give a little introduction. First of all, I want to say thank you.
I'd completely forgotten.
Oh, it's okay. I want to say thank you very much to Veronica Curran, first of all. Veronica Curran has been one of our avid listeners and fans over the last 70 weeks. And actually, today's show is all thanks to Veronica. Veronica's put this all together.
Is it?
Yeah. So Veronica's basically my booker for this evening. She's
I've got it. Hang on, let's do the thing. Well, I've got it.
You play it? Play the sponsor.
Yeah, let's play.
I'm sure you've heard before that good quality CBD needs to be really, really expensive. This is the new view of CBD. A product created by users for users. A product at an affordable price, available everywhere, at any time, at the simple click of a button. Just CBD and MCT oil. No additives, no preservatives, and no flavor enhancers. It's a simple subscription-based service. The cleanest possible CBD delivered to your door for the lowest possible price. Your product, your rights for the lowest possible price.
Apologies about that. I completely slipped my head.
You got it sorted.
Yeah, I did, but I don't like. I tell you what, I picked up my new glasses, not these. I picked up my new glasses today, which should be fantastic. I can't see a thing through them. It me feel violently sick.
No, it's okay, dude. You'll get used to it.
Fortune.
So
anyway,
Yeah, so I had that recently when they said I needed glasses. I put glasses on, I couldn't see with them, and I basically took them back and I was like, do my check again. They did my check again. Like, yeah, you actually need glasses. And I was like, what do you mean? You just told me I need
I
glasses.
do for reading, not for driving or anything else, just for reading. And they go, oh, you need varifocals. I got the varifocals. Anyway, you're talking about Veronica Curran, please.
Yeah, so Veronica Curran has actually put us in contact with our guest this evening. Our guest this evening is a gentleman by the name of Alan Robinson. Alan Robinson, aka N.I. Canaguy. I'm sure a lot of you listeners have heard about him before. He really is an absolute legend. Over the past few years, Alan Robinson has worked directly with patients, helping them to understand their way through this new world of medical cannabis. As patients using new medicines administered in new ways through new delivery methods, it's sometimes hard to know as a patient what you should be doing, how you should be consuming your medication, what are the benefits of consuming cannabis in different ways. Doctors, unfortunately, cannot guide patients. They cannot educate patients. They can only direct them to where patients can find cannabis, but what to do with the cannabis once you have it, it's a little bit of a uneducated area. So unfortunately, it's been left to individuals in the community to take this responsibility onto their shoulders, and it's the job of educators who have stepped up to the plate to educate other patients. Alan is one of these educators. He's helped Veronica Curran in ways which, you know, even we haven't been able to help her, and he's helped loads of other patients out there. He's very much on the scene. He's very much at the heart of a community of people who really need him. And fact of the matter is people like this, people like Alan, help other patients to find their way. So I'm really excited to get Alan on and share his story. Thank you so much for joining us today. And thank you so much, Veronica, for bringing him into our lives. I really appreciate it.
Well, guys, what's happening? Thanks for having me on. This is
you have a beautiful
Thank
accent.
you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you.
Oliver, what an intro, man. Thanks very much. From the
See,
Hunk of
I would have
Hemp
made
himself.
I would have made it longer, but basically Russ has been angry at me the last few weeks because I make these incredibly in-depth 35-minute long introductions. He's like, look, Ollie, there's no show, there's just an introduction. You've got to kind of roll it back. So what I did was I took all the emotion and I put it into a shorter space. And then you get all of the,
you see,
all of the warmth.
Was I right? Was I right?
You are right. You are right.
There you go. Thanks.
And he's still happy with the introduction. So I win and you win.
There you go, because it was perfect. It didn't need to go on like the Gettysburg Address.
Exactly.
And then our guest is going, am I ever going to get on? See? Happy customers.
Hell yeah. By the way, I love the stay medicated sign in the back.
Thanks very much.
Just want to throw that out there.
Oh, that's clever. Yes.
We're setting up in the lounge now.
Amazing. So this is where I want to start. All right. Basically, so there's a lot I want to discuss with you today. I want to discuss your work in the community. I want to discuss your first interactions with cannabis. I want to discuss what actually happens in a smoking lounge. I want to discuss all of these things that you do that are, it's not that common in this space. You know, from the CBD side of the market, the one thing we're not allowed to do is talk about the medicinal claims around cannabis. We're not allowed to guide people through products. We're not allowed to sell a product as doing something. The medical community, they have their hands shackled because they're not allowed to actually direct patients. We had Ed McDonald on a few weeks ago who was explaining about how his page, the cannabis pages, gives individuals information which they cannot acquire through their doctors. And I know you're very heavily involved in this industry in a way that most people are not, because you really are an educator, a guide, and a nurturer. And I mean, the way you've even convinced Veronica recently to go and get you convinced Veronica last week to go and get a prescription. Do you know what I mean? You convinced her to go to the meeting. You basically even set that up for her. It's incredible the things you've done for people who need them. And to be honest with you, I think it's amazing that you've taken it upon your shoulders, because it's not your responsibility, but you've made it your responsibility. So on behalf of patients everywhere, before we start with the show, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for all the people you've helped. Thank you for all the choices you've helped to influence for the better. And thank you for your patience with patience. Huh? You like that? The patience with patience? I just really wanted to say the patience with patience.
Very good. Very good. Come on. You're rocking. You're fine.
I'm lost for words after that, man. Thanks very much. You don't have to thank me at all. I'm just trying to be the change that I want to see in my own community and my own personal journey with cannabis. You know, whenever you get to a certain point and you realize that the health service is letting everybody down, you know, you have to start telling people. It started with me with my mental health, and I've always used cannabis recreationally since I was a young teenager, but it wasn't until I actually discovered CBD that at first I was like enthusiastic because it was cannabis, and I'm all about public cannabis awareness. But when I actually started to use the CBD, I was able to wean myself off all my painkillers, my antidepressants,
Legend.
all of it,
Amazing.
and it made such an impact in my life and my family life and all the rest of it that I just had to tell people, man. You know, there's a lot more people out there that are in a lot worse situations than myself. So, you know, if there's in any small way anything I do helps these people, then happy days.
Good for you guys.
If I
Freaking
may
awesome.
if I may ask, Alan, excuse me, because men's radio station is all about mental health and well-being. What and please don't feel obliged at all. Say I don't want to talk about it. You're more than welcome. But what was sort of the broad outline of your mental health issues?
I would suffer a lot. So excuse me. I would suffer a lot from anxiety and depression. More so these days, it's anxiety. It used to be severe bouts of depression. The doctors was just giving me tablets that were on his list. When I was going back and telling him I didn't like the side effects, he was just giving me more. Nothing that the GP ever gave me actually helped me in the long term. All it did was sort of mask the problem, but it's a huge problem, and especially over here in Northern Ireland, mental health. And my prescription for medical cannabis herb is for anxiety and depression.
Amazing.
So again, you know, that's something that I didn't know was possible only until like recently. And as soon as I had it in my hands, again, I had to just tell everybody. So that's sort of how this lounge came about. But on top of that, and I didn't even see it coming, the amount of grandparents that have turned up at this lounge with their medical cannabis or their CBD products, and they're asking, what am I supposed to do with this? You know, so there's no aftercare, but the lounge now facilitates that. Where it was amazing. It was a couple of weeks ago. There was two wee pensioners up here, two ladies, and they were swapping buds. You know, one had their own pad and the other one had just different strains, and it was their prescribed medicine, but they were swapping buds and talking about it. And I was just like, this is perfect. You know,
This is exactly what it's all about.
Yeah.
You've got two little biddies, you know, like sitting there, like, and they're actually like learning from each other, because that's what it's all about. You know, at the end of the day, you know, the older generation looks at people like us, and sometimes our passion scares them, sometimes our knowledge scares them, sometimes our over enthusiasm scares them. But when they look at each other, and they look at almost two people who are in the same hole, and they've chosen the same, you could call it dark step, to step out of their hole, and they look at each other and they can almost see, it's like looking in a mirror. They find a lot more comfort in that. There's a lot more stability. That's an easier way to educate. So if you almost go and speak to both of them and almost drop a question and let them find out the answer for themselves, it's a lot easier than it is even speaking directly to someone, because a lot of the time the information is so overwhelming. What's going around these patients' heads is, are you listening? Are you paying attention? If you're not paying attention, you're going to miss something. Oh my God, you've just missed something. What did he just say? And then the brain's going, and you're thinking, I know he's talking, but I don't even know what he started with. So now I'm just going to sit here and I'm going to be silent. I'm just going to nod because I don't want to waste his time. And then what happens is, like, I have it a lot where I'll speak to people. I'm like, listen, do you understand what I'm saying? And they're like, yeah. I was like, all right, listen, do you actually understand what I'm saying? Because if you don't, I'll repeat, and it's important you understand this. That I actually didn't understand. And it happens so often because it's so overwhelming. And generally, we suffer from our anxieties. We suffer from our issues anyway. And all those issues are always heightened as and when you're in a moment of discomfort or stress. And whenever you're kind of embraced with this, you could call it wave of knowledge, I understand exactly why a lot of these new, call them punters, a lot of these new patients, they feel overwhelmed. And, you know, you've been fantastic, like I said, working with a lot of these overwhelmed patients, people who didn't know where to turn left or right. And you've obviously got your methodology down. And, you know, it's quite lovely that you've given an environment to two people who previously would have never had access to such an environment. You know, you create, like it's like Field of Dreams. If you build it, they shall come. Do you know what I mean?
If and you it's build quite beautiful. He will come.
Sorry, Kevin. Sorry, Kevin. Okay. But yeah, basically,
Alan's got a lot to unpack here. There's a lot that I'd like for Alan to unpack, and I'd like
ask some questions.
Yes, I'm going to ask some questions. That's how I am.
Ask a question.
That's how I am. So that's how you learn, right? So when you started on the cannabis route, it alleviated. I just want to go back to that part of the conversation for a second because it's really very key. It alleviated your feelings, or you felt better, or how did you feel afterwards?
Well, what I was sort of finding was maybe 5 or 6 things were happening in my life at the same time, and in my head they were all jumbled up together, and I was finding it difficult to actually deal with one thing at a time. Using cannabis-based medicines and CBD it takes the brain fog away, where I was able to actually get up and say, right, it's whatever day of the week, let's have it, instead of waking up and going, oh, here we go again.
That, Alan, that alone is fascinating, because popular wisdom would say, no, you've used a fascinating phrase. You started to take this and the brain fog went away. Those were your words. Popular wisdom says, oh, no, if you're going to do this, you're going to be away with the fairies and you're not going to be able to think logically and clearly. And you've just said the opposite, which is very, very interesting.
Well, because there's a lot of different sides. There's a lot of different sides to cannabis medicine. Even the emerging cannabigerol, CBG, a lot of people are pushing that now more than CBD, but the research still needs done for all these different cannabinoids. But what I find is the majority of the time, looking at the likes of reefer madness in the mainstream media, usually the big message that they're pushing, the truth is the opposite. So for the likes of myself, when I got my prescription for medical cannabis, I met with the local politicians here before I opened this lounge so that they knew what it was, because, people walking about the town would be saying all sorts, so I went around and the very first thing they said was, does cannabis not cause mental health problems? Yes. And that was just a perfect cue for me to take my medical cannabis out of my pocket and say, this has been prescribed to me by a doctor, by a professional doctor in London, in Harley Street. This is it here. That's not,
looks pretty.
It looks like a granola bar to me.
Yeah,
it doesn't look like a granola bar.
I'd say it's a granola bar.
It looks delicious.
So the whole negative effects on mental health, it evaporated very, very quickly, and it's the same for the likes of the police over here as well. A private prescription must be treated the same as any other private prescription, So along with a prescription for medical cannabis, comes the likes of decriminalizing yourself, but it is still open to abuse. There is people that can, get a prescription and then just, use it in ways that it's not supposed to be used. But the majority of the people that are coming up here, they all just want to feel better, Right. So just what Oliver was touching on there earlier, I find so all walks of life are coming in here, and sometimes it's I have to think about how I can relate to them, how to explain things to them, and a lot of the time I'll be using metaphors, for the likes of the endocannabinoid system. Without going too much into it, my pitch for the endocannabinoid system is all your different systems of the body are sections of an orchestra, and on their own they might be brilliant, and they might be really good, but your endocannabinoid system, he's the conductor. And until he stands up and makes everybody play to the best of their ability together, that's what the endocannabinoid system does. So you might be healthy in certain parts of your body, but without an active endocannabinoid system firing on full cylinders, you're not going to be the best that you could be.
Somewhere in your body, something will be lagging behind. Somewhere in your body, something won't be managed properly. Someone will be off key. Something will be out of time. And you're right.
You drag it. Try it again. You drag it too fast.
That's a very, very, very smart metaphor. And it's also something most people will get. It's actually very important. It's about making cannabis theory understandable. It's one thing which we've always tried to do with this show. Is from the beginning, is we try to detach ourselves from the science. And the main reason Russ was here was the fact that if Russ didn't understand, the chances of anyone else understanding was zero. So we wanted to create this narrative which I actually really wanted to call the show "Educating Russ," but I didn't. He didn't want to call it that.
No, I did not want to
He was
call
like,
it
"We're
that."
definitely
Oh,
not
no.
calling it that. You
No,
can't call
that's
it."
what
I was
I
like,
came
"That's
up
such
with.
a
That's
good
why I
name."
like the ABC of CBD, because I thought it took the building blocks of the whole thing. Now, Ollie
Yeah,
will know
definitely.
the answer to the next question, but I don't, and people watching all over the world won't either. Possibly, although maybe they will. They won't. You've got a lounge. It just kind of walk us through what it is and how people just rock up, and where is it? I don't mean the address. I mean,
This
The
literally answers
address.
my question anyway. I was going to ask you, so what do you actually do in the community?
Yeah,
So
yeah,
it
what
all
do you
falls. It all
yes.
falls in. So yes, well done, Russ. I like
Okay,
that.
so
no,
the
I'm absolutely
lounge,
fascinated
No,
by
it's
this.
important.
I've not heard of this before.
the lounge is called Stay Medicated Dry Herb Vape Lounge. The address is 8 Rashi Road,
I was
Ballyclare,
just joking.
BT 39 9HJ. We are open Sunday to Thursday, 1:30 to 6 p.m. and we are open to the public. You do not need to bring anything with you to come up in here. We are on the high street. When you come in, the majority of comments when people come in for the first time, they look at me and then they look about again and then they go, "It smells like Amsterdam," and that's that's music to my ears. So what we actually do here for people that have got a prescription for medical cannabis, they can come up here and they can use the likes of this. So this looks like something that the astronauts would come back to Earth in,
Oh yes,
but
doesn't it? Just it looks like the Apollo. It looks like the
The pod.
Mercury and the Apollo
Yeah.
missions, doesn't it?
so this is a big tabletop dry herb vaporizer, but this is actually recognized. It's the European certificate. We'll have it up on the wall. This is a recognized medical cannabis vaporizer. So if you buy this outside of the UK, where it says hybrid there, the real name of this device is actually Medic. So it's the Volcano Medic.
Right.
That just gives you an idea just how suppressed cannabis is in Europe, because these guys are German and they can't even put, you buy one of these in America and it'll say Medic on it.
So I bought mine from America because I saved $300 on it. That's why I bought mine from America. I bought it. I think I've owned my Volcano for like 11 years. I love it.
I'm so sorry,
I love it.
boys. I have no idea. It looks like a tagine to me, so I have no idea what it is.
Alan, explain to him. Explain
Because I
to
honestly, I
Russ the
genuinely
same
have
way you
no
would
idea what the heck
explain.
it is.
Explain to Russ the same way you would explain to a patient who just walked into your store. I want to see how you would handle it, because it's also the same education that a lot of our viewers would want to know. It's what does this device actually do? Why are these devices recommended? Just give a little 15-minute pitch like you would give.
QVC for
the likes to start off with, the likes of the dry herb vaporizers we have up here, the cheapest one's over £200. They're quite dear. So when people are shelling out maybe between £200 and £500 for a private prescription for cannabis, there's three parts to a private prescription. There's the herb, which I get, there's THC oil, and there's CBD oil. Whenever people have paid this amount of money for their medicine, they can't afford these sort of vaporizers, and if they can't afford them, the likes of a wee pensioner, they're not going to put it beside their figurines in the front room. So they can come here and they can bring their prescription and they can use these vaporizers. It's more or less like renting it to them. So when people come up here, they can join the lounge as a member and they can use the dry herb vaporizers with their own medical cannabis. There's a coffee machine up here, hot chocolate, there's TV, there's loads of books, educational, it's all cannabis. And it is actually, it was very slow to start with. I felt like we were, like a sex shop at the start of the first week, because people were opening the door a wee crack and peeking their head in and saying,
no.
and then running away.
No. All right, you guys are about to get arrested. I don't want to be here when you're about to get raided. That's basically it. Do I really want to buy a coffee? Do I want to do this? I have a question. So wait, so just go back to that. So I know you sat down with police and you showed them your prescription and they asked about the mental health and everything. Since that moment, police don't come and check. They don't come in and just check once a day and just looking to cause trouble.
No,
or looking to find trouble, not cause trouble. Looking to find trouble. It doesn't. So you're basically just left alone to run a smoking lounge, a vaping lounge for patients to come and go. And it's almost in England. I don't think these exist yet in England.
No, they don't. I don't think they do.
I don't think they do. Tim Henley was talking about how he really wants to do it. And he wants to green the high street and create educational places. but I don't think dry herb vaping lounges actually exist on English soil. And I'm just saying, like, it's blowing my mind a little bit because it's exactly the community element that's missing from the medical cannabis space. And
Yeah.
the main reason I wanted to get you on the show was kind of know more about this because it blew my mind a little bit as well. The fact that Northern Ireland is that little bit further ahead in terms of the community aspect of this industry.
But remember, you keep saying mainland. It's not Ireland. It's not ERA. It's Northern Ireland. So I would have thought that the same rules, regulations, and laws presumably apply. Because it's always seen. I mean, Alan would be the first to say, well, it's Northern Ireland. That's no different from Manchester or Surrey. It's the same thing.
But Northern Ireland's always also been stricter on drugs. That's another reason I'm sitting there thinking, like, Northern Ireland is like very strict on drugs.
How's this happened?
Yeah. So go on, just talk us through the process. Like, why have you got one of these and these don't exist on mainland England?
And also, Alan, this is a great question. This is from David Green, who's a regular viewer. He says, how complicated legally is it to open a club?
Okay, so the whole way this lounge happened, it actually happened by accident. I was looking for somewhere that I could meet people that wanted to talk to me about CBD and full extract oil. I was meeting them in coffee shops around Belfast city centre, like Costa Coffee and that sort of thing. And when I realised the amount of money I was spending buying stupid hot chocolates and drinks and all the rest of it. So
17 guineas, yes.
Yeah. So I finally found the unit that the lounge is in now. It used to be a health and vitality store, but they were pretty community based themselves. So they had like a 3-seater sofa and a wee coffee table at the back of their unit. So I was able to use that a couple of nights over a couple of months and had a few, we called them Compassion Club social nights where people
what a nice idea.
So
the Compassion Club,
really beautiful.
Yeah. What a great title.
Off the head of that,
That's terrific.
So this is it here.
That's beautiful.
Northern Ireland Compassion Club. So what we do is we try and put the best quality meds into the hands of the patients that need it without robbing their pockets as well. So sorry, just to get back to what I was saying, the unit itself, the lockdown and all the rest of it put a lot of people out of business. A lot of people went online. So when this unit became available, just by chance, again, it was a conversation out in the street. It was like a 5-minute conversation, and the next thing I knew, I was moving in. So with my own medical prescription, there is no laws in the UK that you can't vape indoors. It is up to, if you're going into a shop, it's up to the owner's discretion. They can put a no vaping sign up if they want, but the law of the land, there is no vaping laws. So as long as I have my medical prescription for cannabis and I have my dry herb vaporizer, I'm well within the law to sit here and do it.
It's a private members club, right? You have to register as a member. So if you're registering as a member, it's the same with like cigar clubs. If you register as a member for a cigar club, you have the same thing. I don't think they've got the Marlboro.
Not quite. No,
I don't think there's a Marlboro Light cigarette club where I can join and go and smoke cigarettes inside. But one day,
the way that cigar places operate, is that you are sampling.
Right.
You are sampling.
It's a different rule.
Go figure. You're sampling the cigars.
Our membership, it's £10 a month, and what happens with that £10 is that pays the rent.
Amazing. So it's all for the community. Everything you do is like non-profit, right?
Yeah.
And it's all for the community. Gosh. It's incredible.
Yeah. Now we do retail things up here now. We didn't at the start, but people were coming up and using the likes of this. This is like a handheld dry herb vaporizer, so you would put your meds in the top.
Right.
These are this is one of my pitches. These are glorified ovens, so we're not burning anything. It's not like a bong. We're not setting anything on fire. Whenever we heat these up, the cannabinoids, they're nice. You pack your flour in nice and tight. I have it in a wee capsule. So once you heat that up in the oven, you're coaxing the cannabinoids out whenever you're inhaling, and that is what you inhale. What's left over then?
Because how's it heating up, Alan? I've never seen any of this before. What do I know? How's it heat?
This would be the heating oven in here. Right. And this whole middle section of the device is the heating chamber. and the two bits here on the side are the batteries that power it.
Oh,
When
I
you turn-
see. Right. Okay.
So when you
Got
turn
it.
this on, it'll tell you the temperature. So the big one's where it wants to go, and the wee one's where it's going. So when it gets to 190, your cannabis medicine's going to be ready to inhale, and you just turn the spout round, and
Oh, it's so. Oh,
that's
well,
you.
Dude, you
Right.
can vape. You've got a prescription. Go ahead, go mental, do whatever you want to do. You know, you're legally allowed to do whatever you want to do. I can't do that because I haven't got a prescription, but you can, and I would
So
actually urge you to
wait,
do it.
wait a minute. Hang
Do you want
on.
one, Ollie?
So I'm
you want
completely
one?
lost.
One day,
I'm
one day.
totally lost here.
I'm in the
Why
process,
can-
like a month.
Why can you not vape?
Oh, because I don't. So I don't have a legal cannabis prescription yet.
No, yeah, right. Okay.
So he has a legal cannabis prescription.
No, I
So
get
because he
that.
has a legal cannabis prescription, he's legally entitled to consume cannabis for medicinal reasons. Therefore, he's legally,
Right.
but he's not legally allowed to smoke it. He has to either eat it or vape it or topical application. But the market for topical application is very limited in the UK. So it's
so
either
weird.
edible or it's vape. Now, I'm not governed by these rules. At the end of the day, if I consume cannabis, I'm breaking the law anyway. So therefore, I'm not governed by rules on, there's not breaking the law in different degrees. I'm
Yeah,
just
yeah,
breaking
yeah,
the
yeah.
law. So whether I smoke it, vape it, eat it, and I get caught, I'm getting in trouble in exactly the same
But
way.
I've never met
across
him.
the board.
I don't worry about me. I've never met him, officer.
don't
I
worry.
don't know who he is.
Don't worry, I've got you down as my emergency contact /lawyer /
Of course
bail
you have.
bond.
Next,
So
next of kin. That'll be my luck. So if David Green wanted to, who's watching right now and listening, wanted to open up a local club, he'd go through the process that you went through, or that's just not going to be possible. I don't know where David lives. But let's assume.
If you want to open a dry herb vape lounge in your own town, all you need is a unit, a seat, and a dry herb vaporizer. Until the government actually passes laws that have anything to do with vaping indoors. As soon as the weather gets better, I have a wee table there. We're going to be sitting out in the footpath as soon as it's good weather, so we're not messing about
fresco.
over here.
do you know what I love? I love one thing. It's just one thing. You said the sofa and the coffee table.
Yeah.
All right. And Jade Proudman, who was on the show a couple of weeks ago, said the same thing. All we needed was a sofa and a coffee
that's
table.
right. That's
Why?
right.
Because when it comes to a community element,
you know.
you don't need a cash machine. You don't need a business. You don't need to have a website. You don't need to have anything that monetizes you. It's just about something which emotionalizes you. And it's that whole idea that Jade was talking about. People just wanted a place to sit and talk. They didn't want a place to go and buy or to be sold to. They just wanted a place to be. And what you've done as well is you've created that. And I wrote a little note saying the sofa and the coffee table seems so important. But of course, when you're dealing with this community element, it's what people want. They want to feel at home. And what do you have at home? A sofa and a coffee table. You have that area of comfort and a doggy. Yeah. Love the doggy.
Been asleep most of the
The
day.
cannabis community is really over here. The cannabis community is huge. Northern Ireland's split down the middle with sectarianism, and it always has been. That's what this country is
Has it
built on.
improved at all, Alan? Don't mind me asking. I know it's slightly off topic.
The generations coming up, they're done with that sort of thing. They don't want to know.
Thank God.
The actual cannabis community themselves, there is no sides. There's no side, no divide. We do a couple of events a year, and it's both sides of the community turn out to these things, and that's
so
the best
nice.
thing about cannabis.
I have to say, Alan, I spent some time in Belfast. We were supporting Westlife, so we were at this huge arena there for a few days, and I was bowled over by it. Just what a city! They've just poured billions into that city. It was not what I was expecting. It was, and the people were just fantastic.
The Irish are a special
everyone
bunch.
was so
in general.
funny,
The Irish are a special bunch.
so funny and so welcoming. From the cab driver, didn't matter who it was.
Thanks, guys.
We had a blast there. Absolute blast.
Yeah, it's a nice place. It's different if you live here and then you bump into somebody maybe a couple of streets away. But in general, that reputation that we have for being hospitable, and it's genuine. Even walking down the city, you've got strangers just saying, "All right, mate," if you just catch your eye when you're walking past them in the street, and that's nice to have in a place like this.
I've got a question for you. Who's the most unlikely person who's walked through your door?
Me.
The most unlikely person?
Yeah, so there must have been someone who's walked through your door, the ex-chief of police, the ex-mayor, the I don't know, leader of the
We
I
had
don't know, militant organization who are just so
Totally.
you're just like,
So
I don't know,
happy.
but like who is, you know what I mean, like who is like, I can only assume that when you offer the public somewhere where they can walk in, it gives people an ability to kind of go soul searching. And I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure someone's walked into your building and you're like, what are you doing there? I'm sure you must have had one, or like, I can't believe, like the old ladies is a great one, but there's got to
Yeah.
be someone else who's like, all right, what are you doing? There must be someone, right?
We've had last week there was a gentleman come in and he sat down, registered and all the rest. He was here for a good half an hour and turned out he was he taught primary 3 in a primary school. And all he wanted to do was to decriminalise himself so that he didn't lose his job. Now the guy, he was older than us, he had the grey hair and all. I couldn't, when he first walked in, nice and tidy and all, I thought he was actually a doctor, but that's what it turned out to be. He was a primary school teacher. We get a lot of firemen. We get a lot of people looking after a hard day or something that they can take during their working day. So the likes of the CBD oil that we would run from the Compassion Club, firemen, bus drivers. I know there is a few police as well, though they won't admit it.
That's super cool.
We actually have a great relationship with the police service of Northern Ireland in
amazing.
Belfast City. So when we do the 420, the parades commission and the police, they escort the cannabis community through the city with all their flags and all their clouds of smoke up to the wee park, and sort of leave us alone. They like it because it's an alcohol-free event and there's never any trouble,
Fights.
But yeah, so that sort of side of it, we haven't had. I know every community does have their bad elements, but so far we've been open 5 months and we haven't came across any of that. Anybody that's come in, they've genuinely been asking questions about cannabis. Nobody's came through the door here and says, "All right, mate, much money are you making?" or "What's your rent?" or anything like that. They're all coming in and asking about cannabis, which is what we want to hear.
Amazing.
You see, I
Absolutely
can
amazing.
relate to this only through, I know it's not the same, but through my love of cigars.
Yeah,
In any of
It's
the places
exactly
where
the
I go,
same.
anywhere of the places, and Ollie and I have talked about this at length, that I go and have a cigar in town. It doesn't matter where you're from, doesn't matter who you are, doesn't matter your background, where you were born, it doesn't matter, none of that, because you're there to relax, to feel better, talk about cigars or chit chat or anything, and all the troubles are left at the door, and all the differences,
yeah.
apart from when Arsenal was on the screen, which is the only time I've seen somebody storm out because they were playing so badly. And he's my mate from the Yemen. He's a mad gooner. But otherwise, it's this whole thing about community, which
Yes.
is so key to getting stuff done. I've just written a whole article for a newspaper about it. In fact, I sent it off this morning. It's so true. But when you've got that interest, and if you expand that to like a car club, I don't know, if you go into a classic car event, you're there because you've got a mutual interest. I don't see it as any, personally, that's how I see it. Maybe it's a little bit simplistic, but that's really how I see it.
But that's it, Ross. It should be simplistic. The thing is, I think as human beings, we have a tendency to overcomplicate anything that's affiliated with cannabis. But in reality, there's no difference between your whiskey club, your cigar club, my dream cannabis club, his cannabis club, that idea, or a kid's playgroup. It's still a place where like-minded people come together to share in an ethos, to share in an emotion, to help each other, to guide each other. The kids are helping each other socialize. The adults are helping each other navigate their deep-seated, deep-rooted issues. And our community should be there to help guide us through our deep-seated, deep-rooted issues. And it's about having that community to lean on. And when you have a community to lean on, your struggles seem a lot less daunting. When you've got someone to kind of go on that walk with you, you've got someone to...
It's the moment you realize, and this is such a theme on men's radio, you're not alone. And the number of people that are the messages I get, these very nice private messages, which stay private, of course. But it's, I thought it was just me, but thank you. And they can see other people posting stuff up. And It helps, but that's the whole ethos of the stations, both men and women's. Can I ask a really silly question? Because I know you're both going to think I'm an absolute twerp for asking this. You've got your like your Tangine type thing, your Apollo capsule, right?
Yes.
So the
Yes.
people aren't. You're not putting in the let's call it the medicine. I'm just going to use the word medicine. Forgive me, everybody.
I
You're
like
not
that.
putting
Yeah.
in you're not putting in the medicine. Let's say the two ladies who came in, they don't
Yeah.
hand you something and you go, I see, that's your prescription, and then you put it in. You're putting in what you want or what they want. How does that work?
I'm just leaving the dry herb vaporizer on the table and walking away.
Oh, I
They're loading it
see.
themselves.
I didn't get that bit. All right.
They're
Okay.
using it themselves. Now we do have. We'll sit down, and if you've never used one before, we'll sit down and we'll show you how to set it up and all. But in general, on your second or third visit, people are just coming in and saying, "Can I have the Volcano or can I have the Mighty?" And we're just handing it to them, and they're just going and sitting down.
Right. Now I totally understood.
See,
Totally
like
get that. I totally
Alan's
get
not
that.
allowed to. Alan's not allowed to prescribe. He's not allowed to provide either. All he can do is he can facilitate an environment which enables people to communicate and enables people to learn. And all he's doing is facilitating an environment which enables people to communicate and learn. Of course,
It's a
there's
start. I think you've got to look at it really. It's a long-term process. Rome wasn't built in.
But then also he's so far advanced. The fact that Alan, has managed to convince people like Veronica to take a step forward and go and get a prescription in order to have that medical defense, in order to have that clarity, in order to be part of the change. And he can do that with either a walking off the street who was never expecting to do that before, or he can help guide and keep someone who's made the decision. Because very often what happens is people opt to use cannabis. They then don't know what to do with their cannabis. They over-medicate or they under-medicate. There's very rarely a middle ground. When you under-medicate, you get no benefits. When you over-medicate, chances are you can induce anxiety, you can induce something which is an unpleasant feeling. The same way with when you drink too much or drink too little, you want to get drunk, you want to be right in the middle, the same logic. And fact of the matter is people like Alan enable people like yourselves and people who are not in the know to be in an environment where they're not being nurtured, but they are being supported. And it's a place where they can ask a question and potentially get an answer, because if they ask a question of their doctor, they're not going to get an answer. And like I said from the beginning, it's very new. It's all
this is
very
where I
new.
get very confused. If you've got
Go ahead, Russ.
If you've got
What have you got?
no, I mean just generally, it's not a sort of Alan type question, but if you go to the doctor and get some opioids, or you get whatever you need on the packet, always on the packet it tells you take 2 with water or 2 with food, or take 1 a day or every 6 hours. They give you the instructions. You don't, even paracetamol, doesn't matter. There's always instructions, so you always know what the heck to do. I'm just baffled. They go, okay, well, it's legal. Here you are. Bye. Good luck. And
the doctors are not allowed to tell you.
No, I
That's the
get that,
problem.
but it just seems bonkers to me.
Okay, so on the side of my prescription for bud, it says keep out of reach of children, start at 0.1 gram vaped, an increased number of inhalations taken over 3 to 5 days. If you feel drowsy, do not operate heavy machinery or drive. That's it. So there you are. That's the best thing about cannabis, and even CBD. It was a point I made a couple of years ago when I started my social media awareness campaign. When you open a bottle of like a CBD product, when you open the bottle and you're looking for the insert to see what the side effects are, there isn't one. That was a big difference for me, because I sat and read the side effects to the tablets out online one day, and it was about a 20-minute video, and all I did was just read the words on the wee thing, so
you're talking about on your conventional pharmaceutical medication you used to take, right? Yeah. And that's one of the things. Cannabinoids don't really have many side effects. Okay, the negative side effects are you'll probably end up going to sleep if you consume too much THC. And the negative side effects of CBD are you are wasting your money because your body will just filter it out and piss it out. So, I mean, that's the negative side effect. You've consumed too much CBD, you've lost a bit of money. You consume too much THC, you're going to get a great night's sleep. Those are the side effects. There's none of this liver damage, none of this, you can end up dying. There's none of this stuff which can happen with a lot of other conventional pharmaceutical medicines. And I think
also because you think about it, pharmaceutical companies, quite rightly, because they invest millions and millions into research. I'm not a big pharma conspiratist. They even managed to bring that into the Oscars. Can you believe it? I couldn't believe it. All the conspirators came out of the woodwork.
I had alopecia back in the day, and there is no treatment for it. The doctors tell you it's stress related. They'll give you a steroid shampoo. But see what brought my hair back? Like I did, and anybody that knows me knows I had alopecia, and it was all over the front of my face. And what actually brought it back was I grew a cannabis plant, and instead of, when it was ready to harvest, instead of drying it out and curing it and smoking it, I just juiced the raw plant, and that's what
The
it done.
acids,
My
the
hair came
cannabinoid
back.
acids.
Wow.
Yeah,
You want to
It's
phone the
so
Smiths.
smart.
You
So
solve the
smart.
whole marital problem there.
in my eyes, that's the natural way to be consuming cannabis anyway. Because before prohibition, this stuff was in our food chain through the likes of wild hemp and stuff being out by
Hell yeah.
cows and pigs and that. You can near enough correlate the start of prohibition along with the start of the rise of big pharma, along with the start of silly made-up names like fibromyalgia or any other disorder that didn't exist 20, 30 years ago. I'm absolutely convinced, obviously this is my own personal opinion, but I'm absolutely convinced that the majority of ailments that we see today that either don't have a treatment or it's new, it's a type of endocannabinoid
Deficiency syndrome.
Yeah, right
No,
along the board.
we have listeners definitely who have fibromyalgia. I mean, they talk about it and they post messages about it. So
No, it's not that fibromyalgia is not real. I understand what Alan's saying here. So we have ailments which have existed for thousands of years, and then you have ailments which have existed for 15 minutes. Now, fibromyalgia is a serious ailment. Okay, it's a serious ailment, because what happens is you've got pain everywhere, but they don't know where it comes from. Now, what happens is a lot of the time when people with fibromyalgia consume moderate to large amounts of cannabinoids, their fibromyalgia just seems to disappear. And it's an ongoing thing, to the point where I've got one of my mum's best friends who suffers from fibromyalgia. She did for 6 years until I gave her cannabinoid-based products, and she doesn't suffer anymore. And now the doctors are like, it probably wasn't fibromyalgia, it was probably stress. But
don't get me started.
No, but then what happens
you're
is,
right, 100%.
because if it's fibromyalgia, there's no way in how they can cure it. It's uncurable. It's a lifetime disease. But what happens is that lifetime disease didn't exist in 83. It was like acknowledged in 2004. It's like a brand new illness. Now, I'm not saying they didn't exist, but cancer's been around for thousands of years. It's got worse, but cancer's been around for thousands of years. And the thing is, there are loads of these ailments. Like anxiety has been heightened since COVID. Anxiety has been heightened.
Well,
all right.
Also lines up with the increase in mental illness since cannabis was
removed from prescriptions.
Oliver, what you're saying there, sorry for jumping in. I couldn't believe you brought it up. So this is happening over here, and this is a history that's been happening. Whenever patients that I have come in contact with, whenever I've given them a CBD or a full extract oil, and they've went on then and took it to their GP or their specialist and said, here, I feel a lot better. This is what I've had. A lot of the time, within 6 months, they've all been re-diagnosed with something else. And that is happening. Whenever they go back and they say, here, I'm still using this and I'm still feeling better, they call it something else. So
that's
we had somebody that had fibromyalgia, and now they have...
I've never heard that before.
Is it dysplasia, hip dysplasia? A couple of years ago, they were told, you have fibromyalgia, there's painkillers, way home. So they've used CBD themselves, went back to their doctor and says, here, I'm sorting this out with CBD, what's the crack? And they've went, then maybe it's not what it is. And the next thing, you're getting told you're getting an operation because your hip's coming apart and stuff like that, So it's a bit of a minefield. The GPs, you can't fault all of them. The information just isn't there for them.
That's it. And they're only disseminating to us what's being disseminated to them. And fact is, what's being disseminated to them is only what's being taught to them by their by the governing
which we've
bodies
had
around
in,
them.
in previous shows, haven't we? This is what Veronica's saying. It was too important, and I'm coming back to your other comment in a minute, Veronica. Fibro soft tissue, my equals me, algia equals pain. Fibromyalgia is a word I will list everything they put us through.
So basically, it just means that I am in pain. Fibromyalgia means I am in pain.
I'm in pain. Yeah,
it's a Latin word for I am in pain. So yeah, you got fibromyalgia. You're in pain. Obviously, I'm in pain. I've come to tell you I'm in pain. I want to just go back a little bit.
Yeah.
Do you remember Ed Hambidge? The Irish hemp. Do you know Ed Hambidge?
Oh yes, I do remember. Yes,
yeah. So Ed is incredible. Ed is a incredible dude. He's a hemp farmer in Ireland. I don't know if he's north. I think he's north. I think he's normal Ireland. As in not normal Ireland. Like Ireland.
Ed.
Not normal. I messed that up. Not north. Southern Ireland. There we go.
Call it era.
Okay. So basically, hold on. What he does is he lets cattle graze on his hemp. So he actually has real cannabinoid infused cows and cannabinoid infused milk and like real stuff like our ancestors would have had. You know, almost like he'll let the sheep just go and munch on the hemp. Why? Because he knows that they're healthier. And he said that he was talking about how much better they are, like milk production, their coats look better, they're bigger, they're healthier. And generally he looks at me, he's like my animals are 10 times better because they get to nibble on a little bit of hemp.
Well, it's not.
Yeah.
It's
you
not
have
so
to reach
daft.
out to this dude, man. Like literally, he's local to you. He's local to you. He's an absolute legend, and he loves what he does. He's a real farmer. Do you know what I mean? Like a proper farmer. And he's just
Wellington boots and everything.
It's just what
the
you
arches,
said.
the whole thing.
It's just what
it's
you
not
said
so
earlier.
daft, Ollie, because don't forget there's certain places where you go, and I don't eat it myself, but it's salt marsh lamb. Now, salt marsh lamb is called salt marsh lamb. It tastes because they're feeding on salt marshes, so the texture and the flavors is quite different. So I can understand where our previous guest came from. I get that.
But it's genius. So listen, we've got like 8 minutes left, so I want to ask you a few questions. Okay. So from your perspective, mainly I want your words reaching out to people. You've really built this system, which is very much by patients for patients. What does this mean to you? So for you, what does this mean to the community? As in, you know, like inside of you, like what does this mean to you? Do you understand what I'm trying to say there? Does that make sense?
Yeah. Personally, deep down, it gives me it gives me great reassurance that other people in my community have options that aren't available to them in traditional standard ways like GPs. That's it, Oliver. I'm not here to be the big I am or to try and make a lot of money. I just want everybody to get along.
Sweetheart, I love that. I absolutely love that.
What a lovely, that's a beautiful message, isn't it?
I tell you what it is. It's like having suffered from depression. It's a very lonely world. You know, I've suffered from depression. You know, it's not a nice place to be. Actually, over the last year, I've actually suffered from introverted depression, which is it's the first time I've ever actually experienced anything introverted. I'm the most extroverted person ever, and literally from June till November, it was a really hard few months for me. And one thing I know, when you suffer from depression, is you're basically alone. And even if you've got a doctor there, you're alone. And it's not really something that you want to lean into a buddy and be like, look, this is how fucked up I am today. Sorry for swearing. But it's not really something you want to talk about.
That's
because
you see, this is that you've fallen at the first.
Hold on. Let me finish. So it's not really something you want to talk about because it hurts. And it's almost like you don't know where the light at the end of the tunnel is. Now, when it comes to like building this community, and you actually are giving people an opportunity to find a way out of the darkness. I mean, for me, as someone who has suffered mentally and with mental illness and almost been trapped, it's kind of beautiful to know that, you know, others can have this this shoulder to lean on, this somewhere to actually turn. You're not alone. And you know, that's basically it. Like, to go back to your original thing of mental health and depression, it's like, I know what it's like to be alone. It's the worst feeling. I wouldn't wish it upon my worst enemy. And I think that's why I try and go out my way to bring joy into as many people's lives as possible, because darkness is a horrible, horrible place to be. And I just want to say, you know, like, you've done that. Do you know what I mean? Like, and from you being someone who suffered alone, you've really gone out there and kind of, you know, brought that shining light into the middle of a high street, all right? Like a beacon of light in the middle of a high street, which is somewhere for people to turn, whatever their element might be. And I just want, you know, like, I think it's really special. You know, I know there's not really a question there. I just wanted to throw out that it's really special because I know the idea of being lonely and scared, and it's not nice, and it's kind of lovely.
I do appreciate that.
You know what? They don't call it looking into the abyss for nothing.
Yeah.
All right. You look into that abyss, which has happened to me only once in my life. It is terrifying. The other thing is, and Chris, you know, if you slip down into it, you ain't coming back. So you're going to fight like crazy not to.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is this, and I'm addressing this really to Ollie. You boy, sit up straight. Is this that the horrible pandemic and being locked down and everything? Even if you were slightly prone to depression, has just propelled everybody. And we were saying this on our daily show the moment it started, because everyone was going, "Oh, I'm going to drop dead." You know, it was like some dystopian, horrible sci-fi movie. And it was no, the side effects of this are going to be obviously, and it's real, and we are not conspirators. It's a real thing, and people really suffer. My daughter's got it at the moment; she feels terrible. So it's for real. I'm furious when people say, "Well, it's just made up." I mean, it's just nonsense, stupid. That's being a flat earther. But the other thing it has raised, even if you're not depressed, everybody's anxious. It has caused a great anxiety. You cannot turn the entire population upside down like that and not have ramifications from this. So I understand what you're doing is great. Look at this. I support you so much. I've been in more NHS departments than holiday destinations. What's a holiday, Veronica? You lost me with this technical term. Osteoporosis, arthritis, COPD, migraine, anxiety, and depression for 30 years. Russ Daily Show. Are you saying that the Russ Daily Show has
helped you?
No, started all these illnesses. I think it's added to all the illnesses.
You're a flower and you're a purple heart, which means that like you're a savior.
Veronica.
Do you know my mum?
Veronica loves you, by the way. She loves you. She actually loves both. I think she loves all three of us. I think we might be three of Veronica's favorite people. I think right now she's sitting at home.
It could be the Bachelorette.
I can't believe I've got all my buddies on screen.
we do the Bachelorette. Do you know, I tell you something. Now, you guys are a lot younger than me. Mum had various ailments, and they prescribed for her, and I'm going back to when I was a kid, Purple Hearts. Now, the older amongst you, or watching and listening around the world, will remember that that's what the mods would have back in the Purple Hearts. They were drugs. I was like, Mum, you're on Purple Hearts. Do you not read about the Purple Hearts? So this whole demonization, to use Ollie's wonderful phrase about cannabis, and my mum, it died some years ago, was on Purple Hearts, prescribed by the doctor.
What are Purple Hearts?
Look it up. There's a whole history. It was the drug of choice.
Is it like a speed?
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was like diet pills and weight loss pills. It's like a Requiem, right?
It wasn't for weight.
Okay,
I think it was for anxiety. God only knows.
Thought it's like the Requiem story. You seen Requiem? You've got to see Requiem. If you haven't seen Requiem for a Dream, mental.
I don't think I've seen it.
So, one more thing, Alan. Your dream, what would you like to see? As in, like, you know, as someone who's proactive, as someone who's made a difference in so many people's lives, what would you like to see on, what would you like to see happen to our industry? What would you like to see as a progression, as a patient? What would you like from the system, etc.? Your closing comments.
We want to grow our own. Full stop. That's the goal. You can't get there. You have to. You can't run before you can walk. The medical will always, the cannabis laws all around the world, medical has led the way every single time. It is the way to go. Grow your own welcome. Unfortunately, the government in the UK, a lot of them and their families would be like the shareholders and the likes of big pharma and things. They're really making it difficult for the GPs. The GPs can't prescribe cannabis on the NHS because the hospitals that they represent, it would make their insurance void because cannabis is unlicensed. That's why they won't do it. There's no.
That makes so. That's the only time someone's actually given us a sensible answer. Like the whole idea of they can't, it doesn't help us. That's the only answer we've ever got that actually makes sense. Insurance.
Yeah, it's all down to insurance. So it would make their insurance void. That's why the private clinics can do it. That's why the private clinics can do it, because they're not associated to a hospital. They're just their own clinic. The next step for this, I would love to see people be allowed to grow at least 2 plants on their own. Anybody that's growing 2 plants in their house, like, come on,
Not gonna
what do you
happen.
think they're doing? You know, it'd be different if you were like, you had 60 or 100 plants and you're out your back. But, you know, a lot of the people that are just wanting to be able to
Yeah,
grow
well, you're
their
not going to
own
start your own
for
cartel, are
themselves.
you, with a couple of
Exactly.
plants? So, you're not
Exactly.
going to drive, just not,
So
and driving private yachts.
I would love
Alan
to see.
Robinson, it's been an absolute pleasure. I don't know where the hour's gone. It's
Very
zoomed
quick hour.
by. I think we went through a wormhole. It went so fast. Ollie
No
Mammon,
worries.
hardly recognised you. Keep up the good work, Alan. I hope you'll come back and see us. Absolutely fantastic.
Well, indeed. Cheers,
Uh,
guys.
We will be back next time, 6 o'clock next week, God willing. Until then, stay safe. Bye, everybody.
God bless this man.
Bye now. Bye.
Stay medicated.